Tommy's cousin, Amethyst, was visiting for the holidays. Her parents were the kind who believed everything had energy: stones, plants, the way a room was arranged. Tommy didn't really understand all that, but he liked listening to her talk. She was older, maybe 13, and she always seemed to notice things he didn't. It was the day after Christmas. Wrapping paper still crinkled under the couch, new toys were scattered across the living room, and the last of the cookies sat on a plate. No one had bothered to move. Tommy and Amethyst were sitting on the floor comparing their gifts when they heard the sound of dragging, the rough scrape of something heavy being pulled across the carpet. They looked up. Tommy's parents were wrestling the Christmas tree toward the front door, needles falling behind them like a trail. Tommy blinked. Just yesterday, his mom had told him the tree needed water so it could drink. Just yesterday, his dad had said, "It's alive, buddy, we have to take care of it." So he stood up and followed them outside. Amethyst followed too, curious. When they stepped onto the porch, Tommy stopped in his tracks. He looked left. He looked right. A long line of Christmas trees lay on the curb, still green, still smelling like pine.
The Christmas trees were still looking alive. And this is where little Tommy, with all the innocence only a child can carry, stepped forward and asked the questions adults forget to ask. He tugged on his mom's sleeve. "Why are all the trees out here?" His parents exchanged a quick glance. "Well, his dad said the dump truck comes tomorrow. They'll pick them up and take them away." "Take them where?" Tommy asked. "Oh, you know, some get chopped up, some get burned. They don't last long after Christmas." Tommy frowned, confused. "But you said it was alive. You said we had to water it. Why do we throw it away when it's done being pretty?" His parents didn't answer right away. Tommy looked back at the row of trees. "Why don't we just get one of those pine trees in a big pot? You could keep it all year. Let it grow. Then bring it inside for Christmas and put it back outside when you're done." He paused, thinking harder. And what's wrong with an artificial tree? If we used one of those, the animals could keep their homes when we cut down trees. Where does the wildlife go? Is that why wildlife comes into neighborhoods now? His parents stared at him, surprised. "How do you know all that?" his mom asked. Tommy shrugged. "I read." They all went back inside, Tommy still thinking, his parents still processing. Tommy's questions hung in the air like tiny bells still ringing. But Amethyst, older, quieter, and raised by parents who believed everything carried energy, saw something more. She lingered at the window, and her voice carried a different kind of truth. Amethyst lingered at the sliding glass door. She pressed her hand to the cold surface and stared out at the row of discarded trees. Her voice was soft, not lecturing, not judging, just thoughtful. You know, my mom always says everything we keep around us has energy. And starting a new year with a bunch of dead trees lying in the street. She shook her head gently. It just feels like we're telling the universe the wrong story. She turned toward Tommy, her expression sad but calm. It's supposed to be a season of new beginnings. But this looks like we're beginning the year by throwing life away. She looked back out the window, her breath fogging the glass. The parents had listened first to Tommy's innocent questions, then to Amethyst's quiet insight. And now, feeling the weight of both, they tried to explain themselves the only way they knew how. We do it because, well, it's tradition. This is what our parents did for us. There was nothing more magical than going out as a family, finding the perfect tree, cutting it down together, bringing it home and letting the whole house fill with that pine smell. We decorated it with love. We watered it. We took care of it. It was part of Christmas, part of childhood, part of what made the season feel real. We hear what you're saying, but maybe you're taking this a bit too far. It's just a tree. It's what everyone does. It's tradition. They look at each other unsure, caught between what they've always known and what they've just heard from their children. But Amethyst wasn't finished, not with anger, not with judgment, just with one last truth, the kind that gently shifts the ground beneath your feet. I know it's tradition and I know it's beautiful, but sometimes beautiful things still hurt something else. Traditions can grow too, just like trees, if we can make new memories that don't take life away. Isn't that even more beautiful? We don't have to stop celebrating. We just have to stop pretending that something didn't die to make the celebration pretty. She looked at the row of trees outside again. And if we can choose a way that lets the forest keep its homes, why wouldn't we? And in that moment, quiet, simple, and unexpected, the parents finally saw it. Not through lectures, not through guilt, but through the innocence of a child and the insight of a teen. We never thought of it that way. Not once. Not in all these years. They look at Tommy, then at Amethyst, then at the trees outside. You're right. We see it now. We really do. Next year, we'll do it differently. We'll get a potted pine and keep it all year. Or we'll use an artificial tree. Something that doesn't take a life, just to make a room look festive. The mother kneels down to Tommy's height. Thank you for asking the questions we forgot to ask. The father nods. Out of the mouths of babes, we learned something today.
Why do we chop down a tree in the forest and not plant two more in its place? Why do we take away homes from the wildlife and call it a holiday grace? Why do we hurt the things that help us, the ones that give gifts every year? Why do we cut down the tall, healthy ones when the dead ones are already here? If you were a bird with a nest in the branches, where would you go when it's gone? If someone took down the roof above you, would you still call it tradition? The trees never gave consent. They never said yes. They never agreed to be pretty and dressed in our ornaments. The trees never gave consent. They never said yes. We celebrate while they're dying and call it innocence. We cut them away from their life-giving roots and stand them in buckets of water. They drink what they can, but they know they won't last, like a mother who's losing her daughter. They watch us sing carols and open our presents. They watch us laugh under their light, but they're fading each day while we're celebrating, and no one sees their quiet fight. If you were a tree with your arms full of wildlife, would you want someone to cut you down? If someone removed you from all of your roots, would you still smile at the sound? The trees never gave consent. They never said yes. They never agreed to be taken and used for our happiness. The trees never gave consent. They never said yes. We decorate their last moments and call it blessed. Why do we hurt the ones who help us? Why do we take more than we give? Why do we call it a season of joy when something must die for us to live? Why can't we plant two for the one that we cut? Why can't we choose a kinder way? Why can't we let the forest keep the ones who want to stay? The trees never gave consent. They never said yes. They never agreed to be part of our winter happiness. The trees never gave consent. They never said yes. And maybe the world would be kinder if we listened to them just a little bit. I just call understand. You know, trees give us oxygen for free. Every breath we take comes from their leaves. They clean the air, pull toxins out, and shade us on the hottest days with arms that never doubt. The trees never gave consent. They hold the soil so it doesn't wash away. They drink the floods before they reach our homes. Their roots keep the earth from slipping. Their branches give wildlife places to roam. They offer blessings without asking, fruit and nuts that fall like gifts, maple syrup, pecans, apples, cherries, little miracles the forest lives. The trees never gave consent.
Their leaves turn into food for the soil. Their branches shelter birds from the rain. They're free condominiums for insects and animals, whole neighborhoods in a single frame. The trees never gave consent. And if everything has energy, like my parents always say, then in trees are like quiet guardians who help us every day. The trees never gave consent, they never said yes, they never agreed to be taken and dressed in our happiness. The trees never gave consent, they never said yes. Maybe the world would be kinder if we listened to them just a little bit. The trees never gave consent. Mom says trees hold memories, and Dad says they hold light. Some people feel their energy, some feel their quiet might, and maybe that's why it hurts to live it all, to see them lined up on the street. How those helpers of the earth cut down beneath our feet. The trees never gave consent. 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 The trees never gave consent.
We hear you, sweetheart, but what about tradition? What about decades of doing it this way? We love the smell of pine inside the house. Artificial trees don't smell the same.
We love the look of branches reaching upward, the way the needles sparkle in the light. We love the memories of chopping down the perfect one, a family ritual that always felt so right.
It's what our parents did, and theirs before them, a thread that ties our childhood to today. We water it, we decorate it with love.
So why should we change the old-fashioned way?
But now that we're listening, now that we're hearing, something in our hearts begins to bend. Your questions linger in the quiet, and suddenly the truth is hard to defend. You know what?
Now that we think about it, you're right. We never saw it clear. We never thought about the life we borrow, or what the forest loses every year. We never thought about the wild
next year we'll do it differently. A potted pine we'll keep and let it grow. Or maybe an artificial tree, something kinder to the world we know.
Thank you for opening our eyes, for asking what we forgot to ask.
Out of the mouths of babes and tears,